Okay, child, let's get into this J-Lo Diddy story because it's a lot. And apparently, J-Lo being dragged, her past coming back to haunt her because the FBI is setting to widen their investigation into P. Diddy by potentially reopening a case involving the rapper and J-Lo in a shooting that happened in a New York nightclub, I believe, about 25 years ago. So story time. Now, just after 2:30 in the morning on a cold winter night, three NYPD detectives were called to the Midtown North Precinct. Rap impresario Sean Combs, then known as Puffy, his girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, his bodyguard Anthony Wolf Jones, who's now unalive, and rapper Jamal Sean Barrow had been arrested following a shooting inside a Times Square club that wounded three bystanders. The cops found Lopez, then 30, cuffed in the cage. Combs was also in the station house on West 54th Street. His plans for a spectacular celebration of the new millennium just days after temporarily on hold. Now the events of the night and the sensational trial that followed it in early 2001 are back in the spotlight. Two law enforcement sources tell the Post that the infamous shooting and the trial could possibly be reinvestigated as part of a sweeping federal probe into Combs, now 54 and called Diddy, whose past includes more than one mysterious shooting. On Monday, Homeland Security agents, we already know about that they swarmed his house. And they went in and, they ransacked and was looking for files and all kinds of other stuff that has to do with the whole sex trafficking and all that other stuff. And we already know how they followed, they went in there with Little Rod Jones and his whole thing, and then how they compared Diddy to Epstein and all that mess. They said Jones alleged in his suit that Diddy was violent, threatened to eat his face, brandished guns, and most pointedly was often bragging about bribing witnesses and jurors in the criminal case concerning the 1999 New York City nightclub shooting with Shine. The shooting stemmed from an argument between Diddy and a Brooklyn thug named Matthew Allen, who was nicknamed Scar. But Diddy, his bodyguard Anthony Jones, and Shine endured a 7-week trial in February and March of 2001, which ended with Diddy and Jones walking free and Barrow, then 21, being convicted on assault and gun possession and sentenced to 10 years in prison. And the thing with that was, from what I heard, was that Diddy was paying people off, that people literally was on the stand changing up their testimony when there was even a ballistics person that came in that was on the trial and said that there was the bullets, the shooting that happened came from another gun. And remember, we talked about the woman, I can't remember her name because I'm sure it's in this article somewhere, and eventually I'll get to it. In the last episode, there was a woman that was shot in the face, and she's been talking about this article, this story. And I also posted a clip of her talking about the case, or whatever. She was interviewed by a news reporter, and I posted a clip on last week's episode. I need to edit that and post that online for people to see if they missed it. But she talked about that. She said that it was not Sean that shot her, it was Diddy, and I believe that Diddy went and paid a lot of those people off so that way he wouldn't go to jail. It was out here, flossing, which is a term that was used back in the day, throwing money around, acting like a big shot. Diddy was a wannabe gangster in New York. He thought he was Nino Brown. He thought he was Al Capone. He thought he was Tony Montana. And a lot of those times back in the day, or the Godfather of Harlem. Remember when what the Forrest Whitaker played him in that Star show? Is that show still on? So you had a lot of that. Like Diddy was out here trying to act like he was a gangster. He did not have those credentials. Shine actually did, because Shine came from that area where, Scar was from. He could float in spaces in Brooklyn where he knew the goons and all that other stuff and could go in untouched. Diddy was somebody who people wanted to fuck up lovely back in the day. So Diddy's money is what had him protected, and his influence, and him being one of the most powerful people in hip hop. So when people run around sitting there saying, well, why people didn't speak up sooner? Why people didn't? It's like people have been speaking up, but they get doxxed, or they get threatened, or I remember the woman who was shot in the face said that when she's been speaking out and been getting people trying to get in contact with her on social media about the case, their TikToks are being taken down, or her accounts being suspended. Like, there's crazy stuff that's going on with her. So Diddy do got influence, and people need to realize when you have money and you have power, money, power, respect. Didn't he have a song called that back in the day? It's sort of like when you have the money and you have the power and stuff, then you get the respect, which is a line from Scarface, which is why I would say, like, a lot of people from Diddy's era, Nas, all of them, Jay-Z, were hugely influenced by Scarface and a lot of that. And a lot of them some of them emulated or use it as an art of storytelling, playing up that whole gangster culture. And then there's some people who actually lived that life. And Sean lived that life. And I think it was because, and I think Sean said this in interviews in the past, because he didn't have the money and the resources, he had to take the bid. And a lot of times money and power will get you off in a lot of situations, as Donald Trump and the people that, you are indebted to. So it said mystery still surrounds the Club New York shooting, especially for former NYPD detective Derek Parker, who left the so-called hip-hop squad at the NYPD and is now a private investigator. Diddy has been dogged for years by rumors that he made Sean, now known as Moses Michael Levi Barrow, and who is in the opposition leader of the House of Representatives in Belize, take the fall for the incident. I've been saying that for years, and I truly believe it. The story was that Puff was flossing, which, like I said to y'all earlier, which is what they call someone in the streets who's throwing money around acting like a big shot. Now, Scar felt disrespected because he felt that he was as important as Puff, and words were exchanged, and then bullets started flying. Shots were fired, and Lopez and Diddy fled the club in a Lincoln Navigator. Lincoln Navigators was big back in the day. I'm so glad people don't ride around in them stupid shits anymore. Diddy driver Wardell Fenderson later said he blew past several red lights as they careened down 43rd Street and onto 8th Avenue, weaving past two police cars. Sean busted off in the air, Fenderson quoted Lopez as saying before cops pulled him over. So this is why they trying to drag Lopez back in the situation, because when it was in the car and they got pulled over by the cops after, skeeting through them red lights, Diddy probably said to her, bitch, you better tell them motherfuckers that Sean did this, because if you say that I did it, there's going to be some hell to pay. I'm sure he did shake her around. So remember when we talked about that in the last episode? Another clip I need to cut up and bring on all of the social media platforms. So now I'm reminding myself as I'm talking. But I truly believe that she went and she lied, and they saying that she was one of the ones that lied under oath and said that it was Sean. But then the ballistics was saying that they don't think that was his gun that went and did what happened. But he took the fall in the end because Diddy had the money and the resources to get himself off. So J-Lo out here lying. That's why I said I know she know where the bodies is buried. When all this tea was coming out, she been real quiet. I don't know if he made her sign an NDA, but I know she been keeping quiet on all this tea. So she went and said that, and then it said that Parker told the Post now how in the precinct her mother Guadalupe was yelling at her in Spanish, and she was really mad at Jennifer. I heard her say, "I told you not to get involved with him." Lopez was released from custody without being charged after 14 hours in jail. Her spokeswoman declined to comment to the Post, but sources in her camp made it clear that she was never charged in 19. Well, we know that because circumstances, and her being with Diddy probably got her off, and she didn't really do nothing. She basically just said, Sean did it. And this is why I find funny, because remember, J-Lo was just some minuscule little pop star, and then she got with Diddy, and Diddy kind of helped her career and get her infiltrate the hip-hop spaces. And it's funny because people like her is like, oh, they love hip-hop culture, they love the blackness, they love the goonness of the culture, they love all that, the gangsterness, the gangster culture and stuff. Y'all love the hood until it's time to be in the hood, then y'all want to run. Which is why I'm still waiting to see what fucking block this bitch be talking about whenever she on her shows or whenever she be doing her little stuff. And I also think why people be going in on this. So it's a lot of things. It had nothing, with all this stuff coming out about J-Lo right now. And a lot of people thinking, oh, they just pulling, stuff out their ass about they hate her. And I think it's because it's many of things. It's her infiltrating hip hop spaces, that you only love being around black folks because it benefited your music career. And then the stealing of people's vocals and not giving them credit. Ashanti, Christina Miliana, Natasha Ramos, who you basically just took all of Jenny from the Block and said you sang on it, when the reference track is all Natasha. And yeah, she came and did a little yang yang, add little ad libs, but even down to the ad libs, speaking of which, was Natasha Ramos. So that's why people going in on J-Lo. But let's continue with this. Natanya Rubin is the woman's name, who was the one who was shot in the face. And she's been insisting that it was Combs who did it. Saying, I literally watched them pull out the guns. I had a clear point of view. I mean, for God's sake, I got shot in my nose. This is what she said during an appearance on News Nation's Elizabeth Vargas Reports Thursday. Jones, in his lawsuit, claims Diddy openly bragged about committing the shooting and bribing witnesses and jurors to secure his acquittal. Mr. Combs shared that he was responsible for the shooting in the nightclub in New York. This is what Jones alleged. He also alleges that Diddy bragged about using J-Lo to smuggle the gun into the club, which is where I mentioned earlier in the headline that she's his gun mule. He also he said he shared that artist and Mr. Combs' girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Lopez, aka J-Lo, carried the gun into the club for him and passed him the gun after he got into an altercation with another individual. Why? Because you thought they were going to check him and not her? I watched everything occur and have described it vehemently to all parties involved. I have 9 bullet fragments remaining in my face. Diddy, through attorneys, have denied Jones' allegations. Of course he is, but he a piece of shit, and I do agree he did do it. But anyway, allegedly. His attorney called the federal raids a witch hunt, okay, Donald Trump, and slammed the military level force used, which is what they do in every situation. So I don't know why y'all trying to act like y'all are just brand new. Diddy was backed this week by Glenn Beck, who was working security at the club that night, and is now a martial arts expert who worked with Deadly Art of Survival magazine. Beck testified at the 2001 trial, but told the Post that it appeared the prosecution was hell-bent on nailing Diddy and therefore did not ask him about Barrow, aka Shine. He called Jones's claim some BS and said, "We knew Scar, we knew Shine. He was a wild kid from Brooklyn." I mean, he was 21, so, but that doesn't excuse that. Okay, just because you're a wild kid from Brooklyn doesn't mean that the rest of this stuff that was going on isn't true. Two things can be true at the same time. Sean could be a wild kid, and Diddy could have also pulled out a gun and shot them people, including that woman in her damn nose. And they said that Beck said that a fight was brewing between Diddy and Scar. Sean ran out of the club and returned a few minutes later without being searched by security. That's when the shooting began. Then, right after we heard the shots ring out, Sean ran out the door of the club that was attached to a hotel. He came flying out the doors and was immediately arrested by 2 cops who were outside and had heard the shots inside. Barrow then admitted at trial that he pulled out a gun and fired during the fracas, and so far has not accused Diddy of making him take the fall for him. The Post was unable to reach Barrow in his native Belize. He also disputed that J-Lo could have been used as a drug mule and said, "I remember how well she was dressed that night, and she's very slim. She's not going to be hiding a gun in that outfit." I mean, remember, wasn't there a movie where it was like a woman shoved a gun up in her vagina and pulled it out? I forget what that was. But look, crazier things have happened. And who says it had to be in her outfit? It could have been, in a clutch. It could have been in something. I don't know what the hell she was wearing that night. I don't remember. But it is what it is. The gun, regardless of who had it or whatever the case was, 2 guns were allowed to come into the club. Diddy, with his status or whatever the case was, probably wasn't searched. And a lot of people use a celebrity status to get by on a lot of situations or slip through the cracks. Let's not act like that doesn't happen. Jones also alleged that Diddy lied about his and his son Justin Combs' role in the 2022 shooting at the Chalice recording studio in LA, in which a friend of Justin, known as G, was hit twice. What the fuck? Now his son's friends is getting shot, and they were saying that Jones claimed that he was present at the Chalice shooting, and he said what occurred at the recording camp in the studio with Diddy, Justin, and G got into a heated conversation, then moved into a restroom where shots rang out. Photos in Jones' lawsuit show that what purportedly was the bloody aftermath of the shooting in the bathroom. Jones said that he stepped in to help G, who was bleeding out, and took him outside to an ambulance. Mr. Combs gave strict instructions to inform the police that he had nothing to do with the shooting. He also forced Mr. Jones to lie to the police by telling them that G was shot standing outside the studio by a driver. What you think this is? The shooting at High 97? Now you trying to bring that up? The LAPD did not return numerous calls from the Post, but a spokesperson for the police told NBC News that 3 people were arrested 2 months later and accused of a series of robberies throughout LA, including the shooting of G. Police said G had told them he was shot in a struggle with an attempted robbers. Jones also alleged that Diddy head of security, Fahim Muhammad, who was once head of security for Michael Jackson, is a powerful fixer with connections in the the LAPD, who Jones claimed had the power to make people and problems disappear. Like Biggie. And that whole story, we still ain't found his killers. Management at Challenge, where Diddy has recorded multiple times, declined comment Friday. Diddy, however, is not without other defenders. Then there was an LA rapper by the name of Glasses Malone, a former Crip who grew up in South Central LA and who has been around Diddy on multiple occasions, told a Post, I found Joe's lawsuit pretty disingenuous. The guy called himself a Christian, but yet he let himself be forced into getting strippers and cocaine for puff. Malone, who also used the same network of LA recording studios like Chalice and others, said the only thing that concerned him in the Jones lawsuit was the shooting involving G. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And look, first of all, Diddy is going to be buried in an avalanche of cases, court stuff. It's a mess. I don't even know what to say about this. I feel like in between the topics, I was kind of giving my own stuff before I forget because it was just a lot. But Diddy, you going down, and J-Lo, you in danger, girl. That's all I got to say.